The establishment of the park was a largely grassroots effort, and they were looking for ways to bring tourists and folks back to the Waskish area. One of the things historically that people like to come to the area for was the fire tower that stood here from the 1930s to the 1970s. A lot of folks remember seeing that and climbing that as a kid, and would like to have that back again. That tower was taken down in the mid-1970s. So with that in mind, when the park was established, we identified as fire tower as one of the priority things that we'd be looking for to bring back to the park. About the same time, we had noticed the Pine Island tower was on a list to be salvaged and taken down. So we had targeted that tower as a potential tower to bring over to this park here. It was an ideal tower to bring back because it was built basically between the same year, 1937-38, as the tower that was originally constructed here at the park. So historically it was a very close match, if not identical, exact same plan. We wanted to keep it as close to the original tower here as possible for the historical significance.
How many years ago did this process start to get where it is today?
It began, around 1999, 2000. So it's taken close to 11 years to get to where we are right now, just about ready to open up the tower to the public.
Now I see that because it's open to the public, there's been a lot of modifications and much better stairways put on there, all the wood's taken off, and is it stainless steel or regular steel? Or...
Yeah, we made a number of safety modifications to the tower to allow the public to use it. And especially in the park setting, we want to keep it as safe as possible. We've enclosed the entire stairway up to the cab with a safety mesh along 3 sides of the tower. And as you said, improve the steps going up on each of the landings. We took out the wood planks and brought in the steel braided steps.
I saw the workmanship in Bo's. I was very impressed to see that. The tower will be open when the park is open and then closed at a certain time of night, or when?
Yes, it will be fenced. It will be gated when we don't have the visitor center open. So we do need to control the traffic coming up and down because of the safety importance to.
Now, is the park open year-round in the wintertime too then?
The park is open year-round. At this point, they don't anticipate having the tower open during the winter, just because of the snow on the steps and causing some safety hazards. So we'll see how that goes.
Do you remember what the height of this tower is? I can't remember.
This is a 100-foot tower.
It's a 100-foot tower.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the movement of the tower from the original site and was brought back to here, was it done in sections or totally dismantled?
It was taken down in sections and brought from the Pine Island State Forest site to the park in about 4 different sections. Once it was delivered here, then it was disassembled down to each piece. The cab was completely redone. That was taken down, but it was removed. It had degraded quite a bit.
Was there any single individual like yourself that said, hey, we need to have the fire tower here? Or was that a committee decision? Or?
It was a committee decision. We had a large group of local residents on the advisory committee for the park itself. And even prior to that, there was a large planning effort within the community and on a larger scale with, with staff and the DNR and other local folks that had interest. So a lot of different players involved in getting the tower here today.
Well, I must say the inside display you have of that printed picture of the 12-foot fire tower against the wall, where did that image come from to make such a large mural?
Well, it was a photo that we had provided to the interpretive contractors that we have working on the displays in the park here. So it's one of the original tower. It's beside a kiosk which will have fed to a web camera on the top of the fire tower. So folks who are unable to climb the top of the tower will still be able to take in the view from on top.
From on the bottom someplace, there's going to be a screen down there or something?
Right across from the office, the front counter,
Yeah.
we will have
Okay.
a screen right there for folks to see from the ground. It'll also be linked to our park website eventually.
Okay, so viewer can go to the internet and dial up this park.
Yep.
And punch up the camera on the tower. Would that be a moving camera or a stationary camera?
It will be stationary. It has a very wide pan, so it'll take in much
Okay.
of the area, and we'll be able to individually zoom into spots within that view.
The person on the website can't zoom in, but you can at the office here.
We will be able to hear from
At the office.
humans.
So you can tilt and pan the camera from the office, or just zoom.
We can zoom digitally within that
Okay,
pan.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I got
This is the 4th tower in the park here on this site. We had 3 prior to this one, so there has been a lot of history with towers in
you.
Waskesish.
There were 4 towers within this park system here in Waskesish. Big
Yes.
lot. And this is the only one left then? There's the one up north?
There was, not counting the one in the north unit that was there on Ludlow Island.
Is that still standing?
That is down.
What is
That is
that?
no longer standing. But we had 3 others prior to this one within the park in the past.
After the steel steps and extra bracing was added and welded into place, and each section had to be lifted by a crane very slowly, and especially coming down because you didn't want to hit anybody, and put into place. We feel this is such a unique picture that we're going to show you what took place when all these 4 pieces were put together. You'll note there's small canvas bags hanging on the legs. In those bags are the bolts that are used to tie the 2 sections together. There were approximately 150 forest fire lookout towers in northern Minnesota. The construction started in the 1930s and went up until the late 1960s. Of those approximately 150, maybe 45 still stand today. None of them are really being used for fire detection as the aircraft took over that duty in the 1960s. There are still a few fire towers that are being manned by volunteers, senior citizens, amateur radio club members, to look for fires during the fire season. And in Minnesota, the fire season is basically April through May and into June. And that's because there's no leaves on the trees and the sun is getting very high in the sky and drying out the forest floor. Usually by the time June gets here, there's enough moisture to lower the fire danger. Now if it doesn't rain all of July and into August, then the fire danger will get back up again, and somebody would man the fire towers when they were used. Farmers' wives would work in the towers. Once in a while they'd have a full-time Department of Conservation, as it was called then, employee in these fire towers. It was sometimes very boring looking out over the flat green forest, just listening to the wind. But everybody that worked these fire towers knew the importance of catching these forest fires when they were small, to get someone to them, to get them out before they got large, kind of like the Hinckley fire of 1894. Nobody wanted that to happen again. And once the fire tower system was in place, the fire tower detection was very successful, and there were no more large fires like the Hinckley fire. Yes, there were small fires, but nothing really big. The system worked well and served us well. When all the bolts were put into place and tightened, the tower was open for climbing on opening day. The view is spectacular of Red Lake and around the park. When you visit Big Bog, if you're a climber, take the time and go up and enjoy the view. It's part of history.
Okay, there's one here, there's one over there, one back in there, and the last one is right there behind that little pine tree.
Opening day of the Big Bog Visitor Center brought perfect weather. There were a number of displays on hand outside and inside, talking about what the park is about, and of course especially the fire tower, as that was the main event for that particular day, and the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new visitor center. It was open for business and they climbed. How many steps?
138.
138 steps to get to the top.
138 steps.
I guess I have to say that the visitor center was their premier event when it had its grand opening that day. Beautiful construction inside, along with a gift store, a meeting room, and some fire towers display. But take a look at the construction. It's very unusual and very beautiful. What really got my attention was the floor. As the camera pans down, you'll see an aerial photograph of the entire area. And when you stand on top of this, you feel like you're standing on a cloud. Lyle, over the years, you've had a number of fire tower parts, like ladders and steps and whatever. And we used to call your place the Fire Tower Cemetery. How'd you ever come about finding all this stuff? When they tore it down or junking it, or?
When the state decided they may have had some liability with towers,
Let's fly a little closer to the cameras because it's the sound here.
They started selling them or putting them up for bid, and nobody wanted them. The one that was here, I bid $1 or $5 on, something like that, but I was too slow about. I hadn't figured out yet. Well, I never did figure out how to take them down. And I fooled around until they decided they'd have to re-let the bid. And then a guy from Bemidji, never did know his name.
John.
Yeah.
He's the farmer. He's got it in his backyard.
Yeah. He came up with the right equipment and took it down in a day, a short day.
Oh, goodness gracious. Now, when you worked for forestry at that time, did you ever have a chance to work the fire tower here? Or see the at the park here?
No, we had a regular seasonal worker that did the little bit of tower work there was. They were only up there from like 1 in the afternoon till maybe 5, something like that. So, no, I was always out chasing the smokes. If you smoked.
You were on the ground chasing the smoke. We're going to pause a second. Now, you were on the ground chasing the smokes for DNR. Do you remember when the last time the tower that was standing here that big bog was used? You remember the year it closed down?
Well, it sat for a number of years after that we quit using it.
But you remember the year when it stopped being used, when the aircraft took over? 60s or 50s or?
Oh, I'd say like the second half of the 70s.
Oh, that far along.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't get here till 74.
Oh, okay.
And we had Henry up there for a couple of 2-3 seasons at least. And then by God, it might have been the early 80s now. Cause,
oh, wow. So it was used quite a while then.
Well, no, because it sat for a couple of years before
Gotcha.
it got sold.
Gotcha.
So,
but the last time it was manned for fire detection was in the 70s, you think?
Yeah, it was like 76 probably, just a guess.
How about the one, well, this came from Pine Island Forest to the east here.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that was last used, that same time period?
No, because Roger Anderson, the guy that I came here to work for, his first district, I think, was up there. Him and his wife, Marge, is still living just down the road here. They lived there for a couple of years. And that, I'm sure, is the last time it was ever used. Because then when he moved out, this entire station was abandoned. The buildings were there for a long time, and some of them are scattered around the countryside here. But I'd say that one probably wasn't used after 1960 maybe.
Now
Just guessing.
the other tower they could triangulate with would be over here on the peninsula, Panema and Red Lake.
Yeah.
And would that run by the Indians only, or did the DNR involved in that, or is the?
I think it was strictly the Indians.
Okay.
Because I don't recall we ever called them for a crossing.
Okay.
Well, there was one in Kellier though. They used to cross there all the time in Northland. And between the three of them, we usually could figure something out.
Well, nice to be here at the grand opening here of the new visitor center, and what a job they did in reconstructing this fire tower. All the extra steel they put on, they had to weld more steel on there to stiffen it up to hold the load of all these new steps and platforms and so forth. Never quite see the fire tower put together so nicely as this one.
It does look nice, that's for sure. And they finished painting it too, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize.
I guess there's a couple things they had to paint, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, some of that, all the welds, for one, all those railings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put I bet you there's 4 or 5 extra ton of iron out there.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to what it was. I think I have the distinction of being the last one to climb it when it was up in Pine Island last October.
Okay, you were, because remember Mark Zoller?
Yeah?
Mark and I went over to look at it one day. But that was like 4 years ago or so.
I made a point of one of the son-in-laws, and there was 3 of us, I forgot who the other one was, but I said, I believe maybe we should sashay up there and climb it once more while it still belongs.
Enjoy the view.
And we did. But that one at Panema,
Yeah.
that has got a real view.
No, what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean? The one at Panema, what do you mean it's got a real deal?
View.
Oh, view. I thought you said a real deal.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You can see both ends of both lakes and the Narrows and the town of Panema and, all the rest of them. You'd look around at the tops of some trees.
Yeah.
But you could actually see something from that one.
That's still standing at Panema.
Yeah.
And the one on the west side of Red Lake is still standing.
Yeah,
It's ventilated with bullet holes.
And there's no wood in the cab at all anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's just a frame.
I haven't looked at it.
I've been up, it's been a few years. I'm sure nobody put any back, though.
No, I'm sure not. Well, the one at Pine Island was up for dibs for here.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Doug, and I said, wait a minute, you got one in your backyard. It's identical to the same tower. So the Zeller family basically were involved in moving that to the county fairgrounds.
Sure.
And in fact, this spring, I replaced all the wood, except I didn't do the crow's nest. It was just too hard to get out as bolts. So finally I got to it this spring, and so now everything's changed on there. So when the fair opens, all new wood on that one.
Sure. Well, I think that's not 100 feet tall, though, is it?
No.
No.
I think it's 80 feet from the ground to the bottom of the platform.
Yeah.
This is 100 here.
Yeah.
Okay, Lyle, nice talking to you.
Indeed.
Fire tower history, a lot of it with you.
Well, there you go.
Fire lane, long cat. Just like the woodland caribou used to live here.
They come back from logging, we almost smoked one right north of
You did, huh? Oh, yeah?
a young fat,
bull.
Yeah, young bull. He come running out and it's dark and you're tired after working all day. Yeah, yeah, our brother taps a few hundred beavers.
Shane, come on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's Jesse. Oh, okay. I was thinking it was our people.
The Big Bog State Recreation Area north of Waskish had the Visitor Center and Fire Tower grand opening this weekend from 1 o'clock until 7.
Joining me on the podium this early evening, is a group that is very important to your community. Dave Leonard is the chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Big Bog. Senator Rod Scoey, who all of you I think know. State Representative David Hancock from District 2B. And Jerry Sensing, who I would be remiss if we didn't have him up here with all of his hard work that he has put in over the many years. It's going to be referred to. Alrighty, 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. Hey! Open this one. All right, if you want a piece, folks, come up and we'll cut you one.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Well, every good event has to have some food, so there was brats and hot dogs for everybody, and we lined up to get them and enjoy the music. This is something you hear about, but not many people can do it. It's called playing the saw. After Dave, the Slewgrass Band.
Sweet home Alabama.
Now you have some idea of what you missed. Don't forget the fire tower, a great view of Red Lake. Besides, it's only 138 steps.